Welcome to Season 3 of the Knack 4 Business Podcast. Over 300 episodes strong, we're here to ignite your entrepreneurial spirit with fresh insights, networking gems, and creative strategies that elevate your game. Are you ready to discover what your Knack 4 business truly is? Your hosts are Bernie Fransgrote from Creative Insight and Wayne Pratt from Motive 8U Inc.
Today's topic is Beyond Backups, Smart Disaster Recovery Strategies. From an audience perspective, what happens to your business if your IT system crashes or gets hacked? How can you protect it without spending a fortune? That's what our guest is all about today, Mr. Ron Klink from RK's Disaster Recovery Solutions. Ron is an expert in keeping business running smoothly, even when technology fails. He leads RK's Disaster Recovery Solutions, simplifying cybersecurity so everyone can understand and making sure companies are ready for anything. Ron, welcome. What's your favorite quote or saying, sir?
Thank you very much, Barry. Pleasure to be here with you. My favorite quote is, always be prepared.
It sounds almost like a Boy Scout motto.
Exactly.
So what inspired the Disaster Recovery Solutions company that you have?
Thank you for asking me that, Bernie. The inspiration behind the company and the naming of it is where I saw opportunity where there was a lack of awareness in my industry for disaster recovery for the technology area. A lot of businesses don't have proper recovery plans. And for when a natural disaster happens, like a cyber attack that happens to a company and takes their businesses to a screeching halt. So that's where it's the small niche in that area where I thought I want to help businesses. And I've seen a lot of big companies, small, large, get attacked by different cyber attacks and other natural events from blackouts, power outages, and so forth, and being down a day, a week, or more, and taking a lot of time to get back. I wanted to put my technology skills and uses into helping businesses in that area.
What got you into cybersecurity and disaster recovery? Is this something you studied in college, or did you land a role that was fantastic and next thing you know, that's what I want to do?
I've been in the IT industry for over 30 years now, and the cybersecurity and the disaster recovery have been part of my IT career throughout my whole professional working in the industry. A lot of my IT skills and professional services are in system network engineering. This is where cybersecurity and disaster recovery play a role as well.
So when you deal with small businesses, what do they lack for understanding, or what things do they think they understand, but they got it wrong?
Oh, that's always a great question. A lot of businesses get things wrong when people are giving them advice that they think is the right advice. Me, this is the person who's going to give you the proper advice to stay secure, to stay safe, making sure that the business won't get taken down by a cyber attack or something internally happen. Now, each person or team or company will give their own advice and their own methodology as to how they should support the company and the right policies and procedures and standards that should be taken place. A lot of the misconception is that they either need to spend a lot or they don't do nothing at all. They'll think they're invulnerable. Sometimes companies get the wrong advice. This is why a lot of companies, whether you're a small business, medium or large, sometimes the wrong advice can cost the company a lot of money.
Do you find that the insurance industry is helping push people into, if you want insurance coverage for the oopsies, or unfortunately you left the barn door wide open and the horses are wondering whether to leave or stay? Do you feel that the insurance industry is also helping push people along, or is it just the fact that things fall apart and all of a sudden all the user information is out in the wild?
The insurance company is going in the right direction with all types of businesses, whether it be for medical, legal, all these types of industries. They're going in the right direction for large companies, small companies that deal with privacy, HIPAA compliancy. If you're in financial, you're dealing with FINRA as rights as well. But also, it's having the coverage, okay, especially in cybersecurity. A lot of insurance companies are selling cybersecurity policies for corporations that need to be protected and compliant in their cybersecurity insurance. They have to meet certain standards and regulations to buy cybersecurity and policy. It's very strict, and they had to adhere to these policies and procedures strictly. So it needs to be taken care of. This way, the insurance is helping businesses stay covered in case when an event happens, whether they use the insurance policy to put in a claim or not.
Are there typical weak points in most businesses or networks that you find that people, it's really, you maybe know it's there or you don't know it's there, but it's a weak spot that you normally see in businesses that you want to make them aware of?
No, that's a great question, Bernie. I've seen a lot of companies, whether it's small, medium-sized, or large corporations, from my own professional experience, some companies just meet the minimum threshold of IT security. Others may go a little bit higher, but they don't do the proper preventive maintenance. And what I mean by that is I use a perfect example. If you have a car, you want to maintain the maintenance of it. You don't want to be the person on the side of the road waiting for someone to come and help you. So in an automobile, you want to rotate the tires, you keep the battery charged, make sure you have enough gas in the tank, stuff like that. You do this proper maintenance, your car will be running and for a good long time. Same thing applies in technology. You want to do the proper maintenance of your company's firewall. Make sure there's no holes where outside interference can come in or no one can get out without proper authorization. This is sometimes the misconception in IT security. Other people may have different opinions, but this is what I've seen throughout my experience.
When you look at a residential situation, maybe you have 3 or 4 computers, the household, right? You have mom and dad, they have a tablet, they'll have a laptop, maybe a small form factor computer, a large computer. Then the young'un has one of the game consoles and a gaming PC, etc. When you have a mix like that, most people understand that kind of setup, buying antivirus and some other softwares. But in a business space, it's a bit different. 'Cause you mentioned something called a firewall. And also then there's network. When I recall from my past corporate life, there are policies in place. If you're used to residential, now you're starting up a business and now you have to have infrastructure. What are the differences? What are the things they got to tap into and ask for from an expert to build for them? Because I know a lot of times I'll look at something like, I have no idea what to do next.
Yes, a residential consumer that has 3 or 4 or 5 devices, whether it be a PC, tablet, whatever it is, at home, is a little bit more easier to set up than in the corporate environment, where you'll, like you just mentioned, in residential, you have antivirus software subscription that can go on 3 to 5 devices and cover the whole thing with a monthly subscription. Now, in a business corporate environment, okay, you're going to have a monthly subscription or an annual subscription, whether it be using McAfee or Samantha Norton. They're going to be installed on each device, whether it be a laptop, full desktop, or any type of smart device, tablets, and everything else for that. And the configuration and implementation of that a bit more complex, depending on the corporate environment's setup. It could be easy or it could be a little more complex, depending on the number of workstations, what their policy is in that computer network system of the company. So there's a lot of variables that it could be as easy as apple pie or have multiple layers like an onion.
Are you finding that, I'm reflecting back on my experiences in the corporate world, and one of the things I noticed that you have your tablets, you have your laptops, your desktops, like you said. We have other devices out there, like IoT devices, or if you're moving product like logistics, you'll have a scanner going, yep, there goes, or a reader. You have access control systems, and that's a larger envelopes of different things out there. More complexity, is that still something that's pretty easy to manage from a cybersecurity point of view? And how do you back that all up? How do you have that redundancy going, oops, someone had deleted something or someone went in and was malfeasant and just going, I'm going to zero this out?
Great question, Brian. Thank you very much for asking that. Like you mentioned, IoT devices such as wearables for smartwatches that tracks our health and everything else, or IoT devices that with the robot arms that you see in car manufacturing companies like General Motors here in the US, and anything else that has mobile smartphone is a device as well. These types of devices can be configured easily within a corporate environment. Having the right software to do it with, make sure it has those features and capabilities to secure these endpoints, whether it be a wearable smartwatch or something you're carrying like a mobile smart device. It's easy to configure it and make sure that it's secure. Also, for the backup and recovery part, having the proper backup scheme and how often it's being backed up is another part that is important. So when you're doing full backup system of your computer network system, some companies do it once a month, others may do it weekly, depending on their corporate environment. It varies from company to company, but there are also other types of backups called incrementals and differentials, okay, which will be a little bit more important files that will back up. It'll take less time compared to a full backup system, which could take sometimes overnight, depending on how the system is set up.
You mentioned backups, and then again, I'm going back to my corporate days and having redundancy and backups. I've talked to the IT guys going, yeah, we mirror the server here and over there, but the actual hardware that I could put my hands on an asset is in another room or other campus or other building. And so the one building disappears, it's still there. And it's literally seamless. It just drops over. Would that can be considered redundancy and backup, or is backup something more separate than that?
From a technical perspective, it is considered both backup and redundancy is pretty much the same, but it can be different as well. Okay. Having a computer network server in one location and maybe 2 or 3 more locations is like you said, for redundancy in a corporate environment. The backup and recovery system is separate from that, or it could be a part of it, depending how it's set up. So it could be separate from those computer network servers, or it could be part of it. But if it's separate from the other computer network service, it's the backup and recovery solution services will still take place, regardless of how it's set up.
I'm going back to cybersecurity, and then I'm going to touch on ransomware. Someone says, I've got you, give me some Bitcoin. Otherwise, you run the risk that, you're not going to get it. It's going to keep blackmailing it. And, it's extortion by any other means, right? When you're doing a backup, is the frequency backup? Is there a way to recover? Is there a way to avoid getting into a ransomware scenario? And if you are in a ransomware scenario, how much can you come back to normal state without having to be thwarted?
It's a question that I always get, and it's a very popular question. For me, you're not going to be able to prevent getting attacked. Somehow, some way, a hacker or a group of hackers will find a hole in a company's computer network system, take the system hostage, and prevent people from logging in and being productive. So you can't guarantee that you won't get hacked. It's just when. The analogy I use with the automobile doing preventive maintenance applies to this as well. Doing this preventive maintenance and keeping the computer network system safe as best as possible. In fact, for that to happen, you have to have the proper services. Whatever the company is using, could be from Microsoft or any other type of IT services that they're using for that. In that perspective, as far as how quickly can you get the company back up, you want to restore the critical items first. Getting the network service back up and getting certain data retrieved first is the most critical. After you get the primary systems back up and running, then everything else will fall behind. So you could get a company back within a few hours or a day. It depends on the size of the company and the complexity of it.
In your experience over the years, have you found that the company doesn't maintain certain protocols, whether it's the protective software, the antivirus, or the firmware updates, etc., or is it end user, like a phishing attack where someone gets spoofed in? I think this is right, and it'll open that PDF and going, no, that was a mistake, which unleashes the opening Pandora's box. In other words, do you find that which area is the most causal impact typically that you found over the years? Is it the end user company, a mixed bag, or new technology?
That's a good question. My professional opinion, it's 50-50, both from the end user and a company standpoint. Other people say it's more of a company standard or vice versa. But in my opinion, it's 50-50. 50% the end user and 50% the company. But the more the company is probably be a little bit more higher in percentage, because it's allowing someone to infect a virus into the company's computer network system. That being said, sometimes the company's IT team or person doesn't maintain proper IT security for the company. Does mean they're not using the latest security patches, whether it be from Microsoft or for antivirus protection. Now, whether they're using McAfee, Norton, or whatever they choose from the computer desktop standpoint, from the endpoints there. So it's making sure that the system is being updated as much as possible and applied when needed. Don't always need to have the latest security patches that either Microsoft or somebody else sends down to patch, because it may not be needed right away. And plus, sometimes the latest security patches can cause havoc on a company's computer network, and they have to uninstall that security patch right away.
I'm going to go back to my corporate memory, not so much mine, but someone else that was in the corporate space. A patch was coming through, a security patch. One full job, went everywhere, and it broke the subroutines of some other applications that were critical.
Mm-hmm.
When you're coming up, let's say a company knocks on your door and they say, well, what do I got to do next? How do you figure out how many gaps they have in their shielding around them, whether it's their staffing, understanding? Do you have a firewall? Are you up to date? What does an assessment, a vulnerability assessment look like?
Vulnerability assessment, or like I also like to call it a risk assessment, pretty much the same thing. I go with a questionnaire, whether on paper or in my head. I'm 30 plus years in the industry, asking the same question over and over again. You're doing a IT risk assessment, and asking certain questions to understand how the company is currently working, how the infrastructure is, how many people, what operating system are they using, what's the IT security look like, what are their rights and permissions for internal computer network system for end users. So that's where some basic questions that I ask. And has there been any pinpoints that the company is currently suffering right now that need to be resolved right away?
Do you have an example of a company that had an oopsie?
Several. There's been a lot of companies, and I'm pretty sure everyone would know this, as far as one of the three major credit bureaus within the United States that got hacked. Not a few years back, but it's one of the well-known ones, and it was taken down, and a lot of people's personal information got stolen from that, and then the company had to issue a identity theft service for that, for 1 year service to its customers as a apology for for their information being stolen. That's one. And about 4 years ago, there was a major gas company down in Texas, which controls the major pipeline of gas from Texas all the way up the Northeast corridor along the Atlantic Ocean, that got hacked and was by a group of hackers, I believe, and they were down for over a week. So they ended up paying the Bitcoin ransom for it in order to get their computer network systems back up on running. That's one. 2, 3, there was a big hospital here on the East Coast where I'm located at that got hacked. 3 of the major locations, the computer network systems were taken hostage. They had to go back to pen and paper for patients. So what that meant, patients weren't getting their drugs dispensed. They couldn't look up the recent medical records, x-rays, and what the health issues are. So those are some of the examples that are public knowledge out there.
Would you say that even the healthcare piece, and less so for the gas company, because it's probably affecting the gas valves and the flow of the gas, the redundancy factor? Do you recommend that companies have, okay, if you were without your piece of kit, your electronic kit running, how do you operate? If you can't do a Zoom call, and Zoom calls is part of your deal, you're out of the boat. You have to figure out another way to get it connected. But if it's actual brick and mortar place where the person comes up to you, you normally would input the information like you're going into a carport store, right? Now, I need a wheel of this size type thing. Do you recommend that they have a pen and paper system as a backup? In healthcare, inside of it, when something goes sideways, it just could be just a power outage, right? Or the mainframe bites the bullet for whatever reason, God forbid. You have to do pen and paper and then migrate that information later on. Is that something they have pre-established? Is it part of the standard operating procedure of recovery or what?
It's not part of the recovery process. That's using common sense, which people need to have these days. It's common sense. Okay, my computer's network system's down. What are we going to do? We're either going to sit here idle or we're going to make things happen. So using your common sense, we got pen and paper. That's foolproof. And so we use that until we get our system back up and running. That would be last to consider until the recovery is fully operational again. This is almost, it's not a misconception, but what else are we going to do? Are we going to sit here and suffer, or are we going to take action and do the best we can? So in that interim, while the company is trying to get back up and running again, you're going to have a plan in place, regardless if it's pen and paper or secondary computer network system as a backup in case the primary goes down.
There's a company here in Ottawa, and it's a router, and it's not PoE. PoE meaning power over the Ethernet. So in other words, a VoIP phone would need the PoE. And what they built into it was a little Raspberry Pi component to it and a battery. And the router is designed that in the event that power drops, the router still functions, right? So it has and if the landline drops, it goes to LTE, which is RF signal, basically cell phone signal. Worst case scenario, it has a kind of default. It's not a forever device. And they have that. When a company is looking at making their system redundant and resilient, do you come in and help? Okay, listen, I see you have this device here. Here's your backup plan. The backup plan might be a generator. You have a diesel generator or gas generator somewhere, something you do in your house. Do you come in and also offer that and going, listen, I see what you got here, and this is the way to harden or strengthen your system. Is that one of the services that you provide?
Yes, exactly. How you described up where you're located in Canada, this is another part of the services my company offers, is advisory and recommendations that we do where we see like a fault that we think that if something happens, they should have this in place. Let's say a company is a legal company. They have one internet provider as their primary source for everything. But let's say their primary internet service provider goes down for some reason. They have to have either the 4G, LTE, or 5G, depending on their capability from their cell phone provider, or they need another internet service provider in case the main one goes down. So having a secondary backup is key. Now, how often will that happen? It may not happen. Depending on what the company's budget is, some can go with the 4G LTE version for a little bit cheaper cost till the main ISP service comes back up and running, or have another ISP carrier as a secondary for redundancy.
When you're doing this assessment, like if I were running let's say, airport traffic control, whatever country, it doesn't matter. I know I need always uptime, right? Or if I'm handling a power plant, I have to have uptime. I can't be offline for 5 or 10 minutes. Too many things can go wrong, and likely will. Versus other businesses running a storefront and I lost power. I don't have a diesel generator, so I may as well shut the door. It's not ideal, but it's not catastrophic. When you're doing that assessment, do you gauge it? Okay, listen, based on critical components, life safety, property safety, and those good things that's unfortunate, but a day's downtime is not bad, which is not everybody will agree with that. There won't be any death and carnage. Do you provide that as a factor, as indicating, listen, here's state of the art, this will keep you going as part of your assessment?
Yes, that's another part of our IT risk assessment that we do, that we find where we think that they need this type of backup or redundancy service in their corporate environment for what something happens. I'll give you a quick example. What I like to call an IT crash kit. Let's say an executive of a company, right? CEO, whatever, in C-level suite, their computer goes down for some strange reason and they can't do their work. Okay, quickly, we'll come in, have to get the crash cart, what that comprises of as a laptop or desktop that's already been configured and ready to go whenever something happens. We get that person back up and running, change out the computer, make sure they log in with their username and password, and they're ready to go. While we figure out what happened with their computer or laptop and why it suddenly stopped working. That's a quick and easy way to keep from being down for so long. Just like you mentioned with a gas or diesel generator, it's important to have one in case you lose power, especially if you're an airport traffic controller. You need to keep those traffic controllers to help airplanes take off. You clear the takeoff, or you clear the land, or circle around for another 10 minutes, and then you'll be able to clear the runway for a perfect landing. So having these procedures in place, these plans in place, will be a lifesaver for when it happens.
Just touching on the cyber criminal element, I guess the approach is going to be slightly different if you're a large bank or a large manufacturer versus mom and pop sell widgets to the community at large. How do cyber criminals approach things differently in the smaller businesses versus the larger ones? What are the tactics they're using to get past the protections?
Their tactics are pretty much the same, regardless of size of company. They find the loopholes within a mom and pop shop or an enterprise level company. They look for any type of vulnerability and take advantage of it, whether that be a firewall penetration that they're able to get through and infect with malware or ransomware, sending an email that looks real from the company that does banking with them, whether it be a major bank or a small bank that looks legit. And without really investigating it through, making sure that the email is who they say they are, that can affect it that way as well. There are many different variables and factors that it can be taken advantage of if the proper IT security measures are not in place.
So this sounds like there's a training component that has to come into play. What not to click on. Like, I had a conversation with somebody the other day, and they said that QR code, there's some fraud going on. And so you wouldn't pick up food off the ground. And then you'd want to know its backstory, like how did it get there? Not that you would eat food off the ground. If you don't know where something is coming from, you stop and that involves training sometimes for people in IT components like email, et cetera, or setting things up. What type of training should a person look for? If you're a small, medium business and you're trying to protect, you try to be aware of what do I got to get? Let me talk to an expert. Where would they get that training? Where would they get that information?
First thing, I can help in that area very much. That's part of my IT expertise in this area for training and IT security training, what they need to look for, what services they should be implementing, whether they're on a small budget or their budget is open. I'm going to recommend, depending on the size of the company, they get this type of solution, which means not spending a lot, but being conservative about it. Now, if it's a mom and pop shop, I'll recommend, all right, look, you're going to need to get this A through D, okay, but it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg to get A through D. This will help you out with minimal spending. Now, if you're a bigger company, 10 plus people, a law firm, a healthcare facility, whatever it may be, the situation changes. You're going to need to implement these types of IT security measures. The computer network system is going to need to be fortified and protected from outside interference as well as internal interference as well. So I can help companies like a mom and pop shop giving recommendations as what to spend on that won't break the bank for them, to a corporation that is doing well in profits and in margins.
There's another piece. It's basically understanding how things work and you can be compromised. Sometimes we get the shiny object syndrome. I'm sure someone has bought something from Google or Amazon that you can speak loudly to, or even my watch from that company, they are a fruit that you take a bite out of, right? Adam and Eve moment. But if you speak, that means it's always listening. Even if there's certain cars you can buy, they're electric cars, and the eyes and ears are always on. Now, two things are coming out of that. One is it's a learning cycle. Next thing you know, you start seeing ads for, let's say you're talking about going for a road trip to Colorado, or you're talking about a road trip to New Zealand. All of a sudden you start seeing these ads popping up. Although that in itself is not a risk, but that tells you that you're leaking out information that you may not know about. How do you tighten up the systems? If you're having a corporate meeting and strategy planning, if you don't want everybody's watches later on, suggest your boss, Rocky Klink's the man to talk about your IT security.
Yeah, it's not uncommon for any type of device that has artificial intelligence, whether it be from the thing sitting on your desk to a TV, okay, that has, some of them have built-in cameras into the TV itself as well, and built-in microphones, and not using an external one. There are certain security permissions you can enable to minimize information being stolen and leaked out. Now, does everybody know this? Okay, if you're in a common household in the US or outside, and you have that artificial intelligence thing sitting on your credenza, not everyone's going to know how to not get the information out there and for everyone else to hear it. And you start seeing ads for this and this, like I said, taking a trip or whatever it may be. There are small measures that can be put into effect. Like I said, not everyone will know this. Not everyone will we even think about it. Okay, they just connected to to their internet service provider, and off they go, thinking about, oh, what about my privacy? Even though the company may say, oh, we don't use your information, we don't sell it to third-party companies. Now, that's true, and sometimes it's not true. But always read the manual and do the research online and see what risks are out there. Having this type of smart device, either on your credenza or right next to you on your desk, see what risks are out there. Again, common sense, especially in today's technology where information is out there for everyone to see, but we don't want too much of our personal information to be known. Like having a company track us every step we go. We want to try to control our own information being when we want to be let out.
The one thing I've also noticed, and I don't know if it's still a major concern, are webcams. And
Mhm.
every once in a while, there's a website that says, these are the webcams we can look in on. There are no passwords, or the password is the manufacturer default, which is almost like the listening ear. Now it's the all-seeing eye, except it's not AI driving it. Is there a piece of software that either companies can use, residential can use, or a small mom and pop say, listen,
Yes.
there's a quick assessment going, you're open, and this, yeah, maybe even using AI to going, okay, you're loose here. Is there a software that helps coordinate that if they don't have access to an expert just yet? Or maybe that's the first step of getting an expert to come in and help?
You're right on those. You just answered your own question there, Bernie. Yes, there is software out there that helps with the cameras, whether it be an external camera or a built-in camera into a laptop or a smart device, like a tablet or a mobile phone. There is software out there. Now, depending on what you're using and what device you're using it on, okay, there is software out there that helps protect against that risk of somebody attempting or going to take access of that camera you're using for video conferencing. One of the software companies that's out there that I personally recommend, both personally and professionally, is Semantic Norton. Now, there are other companies similar to Semantic Norton, like McAfee and other companies that may do the same thing, offer it as part of their subscription models that I would highly recommend doing, and not going with something that's free. A lot of people think, oh, this piece of software is free. It's going to help protect my computer, my smart devices, my tablet, and so forth. But with free stuff like malware bytes, you're limited in protection. Okay. It's always worth your while to do a monthly paid subscription or an annual subscription. You'll have better features, better security measures in place that you can customize as well. Like I said, I personally recommend Semantic Norton. I love their software. There are other companies out there that are not as high as Semantic Norton that offer a little bit more you can use as well, depending on how much you're looking to pay. But a lot of the companies are affordable, both for residential and in the corporate environment as well.
Ron, our time's kind of wrapping up here, and you're right. As we were originally talking before we got into the recording, there's a lot of stuff here to cover. At the end of the day, what do you want to leave the audience from the perspective of cybersecurity, backups, and redundancy? What are a few key takeaways you want to impart to everybody?
Thank you very much for that, Bernie. I appreciate our conversation today. A few takeaways will be: stay protected, be prepared. If you're not sure what you're doing or which direction to go, you can reach out to me. I'd be happy to help you. Whether it be giving you some free tips and free advice for that as well. always love to doing that and helping people. Or if you may have your own IT person or team, or do the research yourself. If you're not sure, you're not that tech savvy, just go online, do a Google search or whatever search engine you might use. Just do it, basic one, and see what it says. If you need help, please, I'm happy to help for giving out advice and free tips.
What areas of the globe do you service?
I'm based in New York City, so I can service the US. I can service European Union as well. I belong to a large Microsoft community, which I have resources to do. Now, if they're not a Microsoft shop, they may be a Google shop or something else. I still have the IT services to help them as well, depending on what they're looking for. So I can have a broad spectrum that I can cover. Now, there's some areas that I can't cover, which I have to bring somebody else in as additional help. But generally speaking, I can cover a very large geographic location.
How do people reach you?
Go to my website, www.ronklink.co. It's RONKLINK.co. They can look for me on LinkedIn. They can call me at country code +1 718 568 6161 and reach out to me that way as well. So various ways to get in contact with me.
I want to say thank you to Ron Klink, my co-host Wayne Pratt, and you, the Knack for Business listeners. If you want to know how to tighten up your cybersecurity components or understand more elements of this whole space, reach out to Ron.
To reach the podcast hosts, email them at info@creativeinsight.com or by the website creativeinsight.com, spelled KREATIVINSIGHT.com. To reach Wayne at his email, Wayne@motivate.uca. That is MOTIVE. The numeral 8 and the letter U.ca, or his website Motivate.uca. If you would like to be a guest on this podcast and share your knowledge, let us know. We would also appreciate your feedback on the content or format. Check the show notes for more details. For these podcasts, we like to acknowledge the support and thanks to the following people: Carl Richards from Podcast Solutions Made Simple, a renowned podcast expert; Fred Crouch, who is the Property Wizard podcaster, where Bernie is a co-host; Javan Strika from At Hive, a co-working space that is more than just a space; then Melanie Weber, Bernie's invaluable business partner; and Wayne Pratt from Motive 8U Inc., who serves as both a coach and co-host of these podcasts. Disclaimer: please note that the Knack for Business podcast episodes are meant solely for educational and general informational purposes. The information and opinions contained within are not intended to be professional advice on any subject matter. The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed by the participants are their own personal beliefs and do not represent the views of the podcast hosts or any affiliated organizations. It is important to note that this podcast is not a replacement for consulting with certified experts in your area who possess knowledge of your unique situation. The hosts of the podcast, along with any participants or affiliated groups, do not take responsibility for any actions taken or not taken based on the information presented in this episode. It is highly recommended that individuals seek guidance from their own personal advisors in fields such as accounting, law, or other pertinent areas prior to undertaking any actions or making decisions that may impact their financial, legal, or other aspects of life.